I used to think the scariest thing about a break-in was losing your stuff. But I was wrong. It's not about what's taken. It's about what's left behind. I should start by saying that I broke up with my ex-boyfriend for a reason. He wasn't just possessive. He was the kind of guy who made you second-guess your own instincts. If I said I wanted space, he'd show up at my door with flowers, apologizing for how much he loved me. If I ignored his calls, he'd call my friends, my family, my workplace. When I finally left, I blocked his number, changed my routine, and even got a new apartment. For a while, it felt like I had won. And then, one night, I came home and found my front door unlocked. I froze. A slow, creeping unease spread through my body, the kind that makes your fingertips tingle and your throat dry up. I wanted to believe I had just been careless. Maybe I rushed out that morning. Maybe I hadn't turned the lock all the way. But the second I stepped inside, I felt it. The air was heavy, charged with something unseen, like I had just missed someone by seconds. Nothing was missing. Nothing was obviously out of place. But when I walked into my bedroom, my breath caught in my chest. A picture frame on my nightstand had been flipped face down. It was a photo of me and my best friend. I knew for a fact it had been upright that morning. My fingers hovered over it for a moment before I slowly turned it back. That's when I noticed something else, something small, almost too small. A coffee mug on my kitchen counter, clean, dry, but sitting out, like someone had meant to use it, or already had. I don't remember sleeping that night. I shoved a chair under my door handle and lay awake, eyes wide open, waiting for something, anything, to confirm what I already knew. Someone had been inside. The next day, I called my landlord and asked about the locks. He swore no one else had a key, but he offered to change them anyway. That should have made me feel safer. It didn't. Because deep down, I knew that whoever had been in my apartment hadn't needed to force their way in, and I knew exactly who that meant. I decided to stay one last night before moving out. Just one. I convinced myself I was being dramatic, that I had let paranoia get the best of me. But at 3:17 a.m., I woke up to a sound that sent a slow chill down my spine. A soft click. The unmistakable sound of a door unlocking. My whole body tensed. I strained to listen so hard my ears rang from the silence. And then, the door to my bedroom inched open. An inch. Another inch. Then, fingers. Just fingertips at first, curling around the edge of the door frame. Moving with a slowness that felt intentional, like whoever was on the other side was savoring the moment. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My body refused to move. I was paralyzed with a primal kind of fear. The kind that knows, the kind that understands that whatever is happening is real. And it is happening to you. I don't know how, but I found the strength to move. I lunged for my phone, knocking it off the nightstand in my panic. The sound must have startled him because in the same instant, slam! The door shut so hard my walls shook. Silence. I didn't sleep. I didn't even move. I sat there, phone clutched in my shaking hands, listening to the heavy, deafening quiet. When the sun rose, I finally gathered the courage to check my apartment. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was disturbed. But sitting on my kitchen counter, right next to the clean coffee mug, was something that made my breath hitch in my throat. A single silver key. A spare key. His spare key. I moved out that day. But I still wonder how many nights he had been there before I noticed. How many times had I been seconds away from seeing something I wasn't meant to see? Or worse. What would have happened if I hadn't woken up at 3:17 a.m.? I don't dream about my ex-boyfriend anymore. For a long time I did. I'd see his face in my sleep, always just out of reach, always looking at me like he had something to say. But time dulls things, even the memories that once felt like they'd never fade. It's been 4 years since he disappeared, and until last week, I was sure he was dead. The first message. It came through at exactly 3:13 a.m. Did you miss me? I woke up to the vibration on my nightstand, barely registering the light from my phone screen. I squinted, groggy, and thumbed it open. When I saw the name, my breath caught. It was ex-boyfriend number. I sat up so fast my blanket slid off me. My heart hammered in my chest, cold shock spreading through my limbs as I stared at the screen. That number hadn't been active in years. I knew that for a fact because, after he disappeared, I tried calling it. Over and over. It had been disconnected. Gone. But now, there it was, clear as day. I told myself it had to be a mistake. A scammer spoofing his number. Some weird system glitch. But something about it felt wrong, in a way I couldn't explain. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I locked my phone and sat there in the dark, trying to convince myself that ghosts don't text. The second message. 2 nights later, another text. I saw you today. I nearly dropped my phone. I hadn't told anyone about the first message, and even though I had tried to ignore it, I had felt it all day. An itching, unshakable sensation that I was being watched. I swallowed, my fingers hovering over the keyboard before finally typing back. Who is this? The response came immediately. You know who. I clicked on the number, half expecting to find something off, but it was still his. I checked my call logs, old texts. Everything was the same, as if the last 4 years had never happened. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe his number had been reassigned. Maybe someone was playing a sick joke. But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't just someone messing with me. The third message. The next morning, I changed my number. That night, I woke up at 3 a.m. sharp. My room felt too quiet, like the air itself was waiting. My phone vibrated. A new number. No caller ID. I hesitated before opening it. You can change your number. It won't matter. You can't run from me. I stopped breathing. My vision blurred at the edges, a cold sweat breaking out across my skin. Then, before I could even process it, another message came in. This one was different. A photo. I almost didn't open it, but I did. And I wish I hadn't. It was my apartment. A photo taken from outside my bedroom window. I dropped my phone, my pulse roaring in my ears. I scrambled out of bed, yanking open my curtains. Nothing. Just the empty street. The glow of a street lamp flickering weakly in the distance. But I knew someone had been there. Watching. The last message. I didn't sleep. I sat awake until dawn, every sound making me flinch, my heart pounding with the kind of fear that doesn't let go. As soon as the sun rose, I packed a bag and left. Stayed with a friend. Called the police. Filed a report. But what could they do? I had no proof it was him. No proof of anything at all. I blocked the number. Got a new phone. New accounts. For 2 weeks, nothing. Then, last night, at 3 a.m., I woke up gasping, a crushing weight on my chest. The room felt off. I reached for my phone on instinct, and there it was. A single unread message from a number I didn't recognize. Just 2 words. Look outside. I didn't. I turned my phone off, buried it under my pillow, and sat there in the dark, heart hammering, waiting for morning. Because some things, once lost, should stay that way. And if ex-boyfriend is still out there, I don't think he's human anymore. I don't know why I kept the box. It wasn't like I missed him. If anything, the thought of my ex-boyfriend left a weight in my chest that was hard to shake. But after we broke up, I shoved everything into a shoebox, old letters, photos, little gifts, and tossed it in the attic. Out of sight, out of mind. That was 3 years ago. I hadn't thought about him in a long time. Until last night. The attic. It started with a leak. A bad storm rolled through, and I woke up to the faint pat of water hitting the floor. I groaned, climbed out of bed, and grabbed a bucket. But when I looked up at the ceiling, my breath hitched. The attic door, the one in the hallway ceiling, was open. Not just cracked, wide open. A sharp chill ran through me. I told myself it must have been the storm. Maybe the wind rattled it loose. Maybe I hadn't noticed. But I was certain that door had been shut the night before. I should have left it alone. Should have called someone to check it out. Instead, I grabbed a flashlight and climbed up. The box. The attic was freezing, my breath curling in front of me as I scanned the space. Everything looked untouched. Dusty boxes, cobwebs in the corners. Except for the shoebox. It sat in the middle of the attic floor, like someone had put it there on purpose. My fingers hovered over the lid before finally flipping it open. The old letters and Polaroids were still inside, the dried flowers crumbling at the edges. But then I saw something new. A tape recorder. My pulse skipped. I didn't own a tape recorder. It was old, bulky, with a faded label on the front. Someone had written on it in black marker, but the ink was smudged. I could only make out the first word. Listen. The tape. I shouldn't have pressed play. The second I did, my own voice crackled through the speaker. Software uneven, breathing. Then, rustling. The sound of sheets shifting. A faint creak, like someone moving carefully in the dark. Then, a voice. His voice. You look so peaceful when you sleep. A wave of cold nausea surged through me. I dropped the recorder, the plastic casing hitting the floor with a dull thud, but the sound kept playing. My breath caught in my throat. My head felt light, distant. That recording was from last night. I scrambled backward, knocking over the box, Polaroids scattering across the attic floor. One landed near my knee, face down. I didn't want to pick it up. I did anyway. My fingers barely worked as I turned it over. It was a picture of me, taken from inside my closet. My vision blurred for a second, my body feeling slow and unsteady, like I had stepped off a moving train. I hadn't seen my ex-boyfriend in years, but somehow, he had been in my house, watching me. I ran. I didn't even bother closing the attic door. I grabbed my car keys, my phone, and I left. The last message. I stayed with a friend that night, filed a police report the next morning, but they found nothing. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints. And when I finally worked up the courage to go back home, the attic door was shut. The box was gone. The only thing left was the tape recorder sitting on my nightstand. A new tape inside. I haven't played it yet. I don't think I ever will.